Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Who here is ready for a little bit of revolution? All right, that's what I want to hear. I'm here today representing the group I run called the League of American Voters. We have upwards of 75,000 individual members nationwide, several hundred right here in West Virginia where I live, out over in the Eastern Panhandle. I represent that organization here today, but the real reason I'm here is because I have 4 young children under the age of 9, 7, 5, and 3. They're everything in the world to me, and I want this country that's been so good to me and so good to all of us here today to be there for our kids, to be there for our future of our children, our grandchildren, so they too can have the opportunities that we've been given. The opportunities and the liberty that we've been given and protected by previous generations, whether it was in Vietnam, whether it was in Korea, World War II, and World War I. I want those same liberties and freedoms to be there for our children. So it's our turn. It's our turn to defend America. And here today, the enemies are within our country. They are not abroad. They are within our country, and it is our job to do so. And that's why I'm here. In the past several months, we've seen bailouts of every order. We've seen General Motors. We've seen Chrysler. We've seen the banks. We've seen a takeover of 1/6 of the U.S. economy through health care. And now we see the Obama administration wants to take over the energy sector too and tax that to death with a cap and tax regime. And now the latest bailout they have is they want to bail out the public employee unions. The only sector of the economy that seems to be growing in terms of jobs, the public employee unions. With the bloated pensions and the big paychecks, they want to bail them out with our dollars. Well, you're going to love what the Obama administration is using as one source of funding. And I'm going to read this here. This is what I prepared for my organization this week. While the Gulf Coast chokes to death in BP oil sludge, Obamacrats in Congress are conspiring to raise oil spill cleanup funds to bail out state public employees. Can you believe that? Because of Obama's attacks on free enterprise, which have prolonged the deep recession, many states are near broke from a depleted business tax base, wasteful state spending, and bloated Medicaid rolls. Rather than trim state budgets, often ripe with wasteful spending, some governors are turning to the feds for another bailout, knowing the Obamacrats always rise to their feet for the all-holy public employee unions. These governors warn, without billions of dollars for Medicaid, they'll be forced to do the unthinkable, lay off public employees. I shudder to think of it. And then we have Governor Ed Rendell from Pennsylvania saying there will be dire consequences if Congress turns its backs. Well, this week, the Senate is considering a measure to increase the tax on a barrel of oil from 8 to 41 cents per barrel, raising $15 billion over 10 years to shore up the Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, which is the taxpayers' insurer of last resort for oil spill cleanups, like the one that we have now down in the Gulf of Mexico. It's being championed by Obama as a tax on big oil, but everyone knows Americans will end up paying for this at the pump and through increased cost of heating oil. This is very reminiscent of legislative tricks used by Obama, Reid, and Pelosi to create the illusion of paying for health care. The Obamacrats are using this new tax revenue as an offset for new bailout spending. With an election just weeks away, they're desperate to avoid the public perception of increasing the deficit yet again. So here we are. The administration wants to use the funds that should be used to clean up the Gulf of Mexico to bail out the public employee unions. It just never seems to stop. It never ceases to amaze me. And that's why I'm here today and why you all are here to fight to take back our country. The party that is in power now, the Democratic Party in Washington, and I'm not saying this to be partisan, but they are the ones who are in control in Washington. They control both houses of the Congress, and they control the White House. And they are doing this to our country, and I am sick and tired of it, and I'm here to fight to change it today. There's another massive battle ahead of us, and it may not get a lot of play in the media, but I'm going to try to do something about that. It's called Renewing the Bush Tax Cuts. My organization has just brought on former Senator Fred Thompson, Hunt for Red October, for those of you who aren't tuned into politics but are tuned into movies. Senator Fred Thompson is going to be a spokesperson for my organization, And we're going to go out all across the country championing the Bush tax cuts, which have done so much for this country. I was up in New York City last week. I had the great fortune to be at a private luncheon with Senator McCain and a number of other folks in New York City, including Larry Kudlow from CNBC. I believe he's from CNBC. If I spoke wrong, shoot me. But Larry Kudlow is the foremost expert on finance and tax, and Art Laffer, while I was up there, had a piece in the Wall Street Journal. And basically what he was saying is the catastrophe that we face will be unprecedented to our economy if those tax cuts are allowed to expire. They will simply kill off what remains of our economy. Kill it off. And you can already see it now by corporate profits, where corporations are taking profits in this year because they see the tax increases coming next year. So that's a big agenda item for my organization, and it's a huge fight. And you're going to hear the other side saying, well, those are tax cuts for the rich. Well, let me tell you something. And I don't mean to ruffle anyone's feathers in a bad way, but folks who make $250 a week generally aren't in the business of creating jobs. Those who make $250,000 a year are in the business of creating jobs. And this country needs jobs. And we need business to create those jobs, not the government. So if you take the money away from business and you put it into the hands of the government, what's going to happen? Certainly not going to be job creation, and our economy is going to continue to suffer. Our people are going to continue to suffer. So that is a huge issue in front of this country. One more thing I want to talk about before I pass the microphone on. I think this election year, we need to be very careful about who we elect. In the past, the Democrats have put up a lot of candidates in Congress who have claimed to be conservatives, who claim to be blue dogs. And what did we see when health care came about? Every single one of these guys buckled at their knees. They buckled at their knees and they sold out their country because at the end of the day, they didn't have the guts to stand up to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. And you know, we've been seeing that same exact thing here in the state of West Virginia for over 70 years now. We have Democrats who say they're pro-life, they say they're pro-gun, they say they're pro-marriage, they say they're pro-business, but when it comes down to it, they do what the party tells them to do. They vote the way the party tells them to vote. So when you go into the ballot box this year and you vote for your member of Congress, you need to pull the ticket for the guy, David McKinley, who can stand up to the party that's in power, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Mr. Oliverio touts high credentials as being conservative, as being strong on business, being a member of an organization that I've been working with for many years now, the American Legislative Exchange Council. Funny, I never saw him at a meeting. What you need to know is he may have all the good talking principles in the world, but when he goes to vote for the next Speaker of the House of Representatives, that will be the single most important vote any member of Congress can make. And there ain't no way he's voting against Nancy Pelosi. I can tell you that right now. And if it's not Nancy Pelosi who's on the ballot for him to vote for, it'll be someone else. And they'll be just as bad as Nancy Pelosi. Maybe not as ugly, but just as bad. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by the smoke and mirrors. You got to vote for the man who's going to vote the right way in Congress, regardless of regardless of what party is in control. Thank you so much. God bless you, and let's go out there and do this together.